You ever notice how some women can walk into a room and suddenly the energy changes? Everyone's paying attention to her, even if she doesn't say a word. It's not always about beauty or status, it's about something deeper. Because every woman, no matter how confident she seems, has her hidden emotional weak spots. And when you understand those soft spots, not to manipulate her, but to truly see her, you start unlocking something powerful in how attraction really works. Most men think being attractive to women is about muscles, money, or charm. But what actually draws a woman in, what hooks her emotionally, are the things that make her feel seen, safe, and desired in ways she doesn't even understand herself. And once you learn to recognize those emotional and psychological weaknesses, you stop chasing women and start understanding them on a level that most men never reach. Now, here's the truth most men miss. Women may look strong, independent, and in control on the surface, but deep down, many of their actions, especially in dating, come from emotional needs they try to hide. You'll notice it in the way she tests you, the way she reacts when you pull back, or the way she suddenly changes her mood without a clear reason. It's not random. It's her psychology trying to protect her from being hurt while still craving connection. And once you understand that duality, everything about female behavior starts to make sense. Because attraction for women isn't logical, it's emotional. You can't argue your way into her heart, you have to feel your way into it. Think about the last time a woman pulled away just when things started getting serious. You probably thought she lost interest. But often, it's not disinterest. It's fear. Fear of vulnerability. Fear that you might see the parts of her she doesn't want anyone to see. Every woman has this emotional armor. And yet, there are cracks in it. Moments where she lets her guard down, reveals her softness, her insecurities, or her longing for reassurance. That's where her true weakness lies. Not weakness in a negative sense, but in the human sense. The parts of her she hides because she wants to appear strong, but secretly hopes you'll notice anyway. And that's where most men fail. They either become too cold and detached, missing those signals entirely, or too needy and emotional, smothering her. But the man who understands the balance, who can sense those hidden weaknesses without judging her, that's the man who captivates her. He becomes a mystery, not because he plays games, but because he responds to her emotions instead of her words. When she tries to provoke jealousy, he sees it as her craving reassurance. When she withdraws, he doesn't chase. He gives her emotional safety through his calmness. That's psychological strength, and it's incredibly rare. In this video, we're going to break down 7 of the most common female weaknesses that men need to understand. These are the emotional buttons that, when recognized and handled right, can deepen her attraction and trust in ways no fancy pickup line ever could. We're talking about what she hides behind her confidence, what her need for attention really means, and the one weakness that even the strongest women secretly fall for. Because once you learn these, you won't look at women the same again. You'll start to see through the surface, through the makeup, the attitude, the words, and recognize the human behind it all. And that's when you'll realize attraction isn't something you chase, it's something you create by understanding her deeper than she understands herself. All right, let's go deeper. Because when you start to understand the emotional layers of a woman, you realize something powerful. Every so-called weakness is really just a hidden desire to feel something real. Let's talk about the first one. A woman's first weakness is emotional validation. Now, this doesn't mean constant compliments or shallow praise, it means being seen, truly seen. See, most women live in a world where they're constantly judged by their looks, their choices, their social image. So when a man comes along who can look at her and make her feel understood beyond the surface, it disarms her completely. For example, imagine you're on a date and she starts sharing something small, like how she's been feeling distant from her friends lately. Most men would respond with, "That's too bad," and move on. But if you say something like, "I get that," it's hard when you're the one who's always there for others, and nobody notices when you need someone. Suddenly you've touched her emotionally. You've mirrored a part of her that most people ignore. That's power. That's connection. That's how you trigger the feeling that says, "This man gets me." Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. Her second weakness is stability, not just financial or physical stability, but emotional stability. You know that calm, grounded presence some men have? The kind that makes her feel like no matter what storm she brings, he won't be shaken. That's rare and deeply attractive, because women are emotional creatures by nature. They feel everything. And when a woman meets a man who doesn't get lost in her waves, but instead becomes her anchor, something changes inside her. She stops testing him. She stops trying to control the dynamic. She starts trusting him. And that trust is what makes her drop the walls she shows everyone else. The third weakness? Attention. But not the kind you think. Most men assume women crave attention from anyone. But what she actually craves is selective attention. The kind that comes from a man who's not desperate for her, but still makes her feel chosen. Think about that for a second. When every other guy is trying too hard, over-texting, or constantly chasing, the man who takes his time to notice the little things, a change in her tone, the way she fidgets when she's nervous, or the way she hides her excitement when she's into you, that man stands out. Because his attention feels intentional, not desperate. It tells her she's worth being studied, not just stared at. But here's the paradox. Attention loses its power when it's given too freely. That's why her fourth weakness is mystery. Women are naturally curious, especially about men who don't lay all their cards on the table. When a man can be open yet unpredictable, when she can't fully figure out what he's thinking, but feels his energy when he's around, it drives her insane in the best way. She starts wondering about you, replaying your words, questioning your silence. That curiosity becomes emotional investment, and the deeper she tries to decode you, the more attached she becomes. See, these first four weaknesses are emotional gateways. They make her feel. But the secret is in how you balance them. Too much validation, and you seem needy. Too much mystery, and you seem distant. Too calm, and she thinks you don't care. Too focused, and she feels smothered. The art lies in being the man who can dance between them, firm but warm, confident but empathetic, mysterious yet genuine. That's what makes a woman addicted, not to your looks, but to your presence. And once you understand these first layers of her psychology, you begin to see her differently. You realize every reaction she gives you, whether it's pulling away, acting cold, or trying to provoke emotion, isn't random. It's her subconscious testing your emotional depth. She's not asking, "Are you perfect?" She's asking, "Can I trust you with my softness?" And when your energy answers yes, not with words, but with calm assurance, you become unforgettable. All right, now let's move into the deeper side of her psychology. The side she doesn't show anyone, not even her closest friends. Because the truth is, the next three weaknesses go beyond attraction. They're emotional triggers that can make a woman fall hard for you, or lose herself trying to figure you out. The fifth weakness is emotional contrast. See, most men think women want consistency all the time, always being nice, always being agreeable, always being available. But what actually keeps her emotionally hooked is the contrast between comfort and challenge. She wants to feel safe with you, but she also wants to feel that slight tension, that spark that keeps her guessing. It's the way you can make her laugh one moment and go quiet and serious the next. It's the way you can be gentle, then suddenly dominant in your energy, not in a controlling way, but in how you carry yourself. That emotional unpredictability is intoxicating to her because it makes her feel alive. When everything is predictable, she gets bored. But when you balance warmth with mystery and strength with empathy, she starts to crave your energy. You become the emotional roller coaster she chooses to ride, because with you, she doesn't know what's coming next, but she knows it'll be real. That's what makes her check her phone waiting for your text, or replay a moment you shared in her head. It's not about manipulation. It's about being dynamic. You can't create deep attraction without emotional rhythm. Now, her sixth weakness is something that few men truly understand: admiration. You might think women want to be adored, and that's partly true, but deeper than that, she wants to admire the man she's with. She wants to look at you and feel proud, to feel like you're someone she can look up to. Not because you dominate her, but because you inspire her. A woman falls in love through her admiration. When she sees your focus, your sense of purpose, your calm under pressure, those are the moments she feels safe surrendering her feminine energy. That's why, when you have no direction or self-respect, she slowly loses interest. But when you stand firm in who you are, when your life has meaning beyond her, she feels drawn in, because that energy says, "I don't need you, but I choose you." And that's irresistible. It makes her chase your approval, your presence, your attention, not because she's weak, but because every part of her nature is wired to seek strength she can trust. And finally, the seventh weakness, the one that ties everything together, is emotional intimacy. This is the point where all her defenses melt. Emotional intimacy isn't about constant vulnerability or oversharing. It's about moments of real connection where she feels seen without needing to explain herself. When she's with you and she can just be no makeup, no front, no pretending, that's when her attraction becomes love. You'll know you've reached that point when she starts opening up about things she's never told anyone, when her tone softens, when her guard drops, when her eyes stay on you a second longer than usual. That's not small talk anymore. That's her soul opening the door a little wider. But here's the key. Emotional intimacy only happens when she feels you're strong enough to handle her truth. She won't open up to a man who reacts, argues, or gets defensive. She'll only open up to a man who listens, absorbs, and makes her feel safe in her chaos. And that's what separates the average man from the unforgettable one. Most men focus on impressing women. The rare ones focus on understanding them. Because when you understand a woman's weaknesses, not to exploit them, but to appreciate them, you stop playing games. You start seeing her not as a puzzle to solve, but as a person to connect with. That's the kind of presence that leaves a mark on her heart. Long after she walks away, she'll remember how she felt around you. Because in the end, attraction fades. But emotional impact doesn't. It lingers. It lives in her memory, in the songs she listens to, in the places she avoids because they remind her of you. That's what happens when you touch a woman's heart on a psychological level. You stop being just another guy and become the experience she can't forget. You see, when you start to understand female psychology at this level, everything about attraction begins to shift. You stop asking, "What do women want?" and start seeing the truth. They want to feel something rare, something they can't feel with just anyone. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real in a world where most men hide behind games, masks, and fake confidence. Think about it for a second. Every woman you'll ever meet has been let down before. By men who promised connection but gave her control. By guys who chased her body but never saw her soul. So when you come along, calm, grounded, confident in silence, you instantly stand out. You become the stillness in her emotional storm. The more she tries to figure you out, the more she realizes you're not like the rest. You don't react to her moods, you don't beg for attention, you don't lose your center. And that calm confidence? It's magnetic. It makes her feel safe in your presence. But safety isn't boring when it's paired with depth. It's the kind of safety that feels like electricity, when she knows she can be soft, and you won't use it against her. When she knows she can open up, and you won't judge her. That's the connection every woman secretly craves but rarely finds. Because you're not giving her validation to get something back. You're giving her presence. You're listening without trying to fix. You're seeing her without needing her to perform. That's the highest level of masculine energy, the kind that doesn't chase approval, it creates emotion. And once you reach that space, you stop playing defense in dating. You stop being afraid of rejection. Because you realize, a woman can only reject what she doesn't feel. When she feels something deep, her logic goes out the window. You become the thought that lingers, the energy that follows her long after you're gone. You become her emotional imprint. But here's the deeper truth. Understanding female weaknesses isn't about control, it's about connection. It's about seeing the parts of her that she hides, and loving her not in spite of them, but through them. When you do that, you elevate both yourself and her. You stop chasing temporary attraction and start creating emotional gravity. The kind that pulls her in naturally, without effort. The kind that doesn't fade when the thrill does. Because real attraction, the kind that lasts, isn't built on looks, money, or clever words. It's built on emotional awareness. It's built on knowing how to lead with strength while staying soft enough to feel. It's about being the man who doesn't need to dominate a woman to earn her respect. You just be present, authentic, grounded, and she feels it. That's what makes her melt. That's what makes her fall. So when you walk away from this, remember this one truth. A woman's biggest weakness isn't what she hides. It's what she hopes someone will finally see. And when you're the man who sees it, without judgment, without agenda, you stop chasing women and start attracting them effortlessly. Because in that moment, you become more than a man in her life. You become a presence she can't forget. And that is how you unlock the female code.